This video has been high on the priority list to make, especially since last weekend when a 19-year-old lost his life after being shot by a police officer. But we will get to that because in my research since then, in just the 1 week, a 29-year-old Aboriginal man from Western Australia has been found dead at a work camp. That's all I can tell you about that one because that's all I know. And that was Thursday, with this being recorded on Saturday. And that leads us to why this case and the hashtag Justice for Walker was so important and is so important, because no one has been prosecuted for any of the deaths in custody for Aboriginal people forever. This is be the first, I'm pretty sure. And oh boy, would you want somebody charged, because everything about what happened, the information that I can gather, is all kinds of messed up. The first thing that threw me for a six was hearing ABC News say 19-year-old was shot in their home, died in police custody. So I was trying to work out in what way and how he must have been arrested. No, that's not even the case. They still took him to the station after shooting him because conveniently all of the medical staff in the town have gone home for the night. And I haven't read this anywhere. It's just some weird Twitter account that's persistent in popping up on every post about it and saying, you know, the police officer was stabbed, right? So like, that justifies executing somebody. Here in Australia, you don't get killed for killing someone. So, just thought I'd put that out there. Who were the witnesses? Did anyone see this? And if you're close enough to be stabbed by somebody and you retaliate with a gun, it looks like your mission is to kill them, especially when you have a whole belt full of utensils for that purpose. Why are you that close to each other? You just know some shady stuff happened. And all the signs that people had in the protests they had in capital cities and simply said, tell the truth. We'll leave that there. Looks like slightly finally the court system's trying to give a fuck. So, a 19-year-old shot by police, died Northern Territory, 9th of November 2019. And then the day before that, in New South Wales, a 20-year-old Indigenous man died from a 10-metre fall in, I believe, prison hospital or care somehow. This is all still within the past 2 weeks. September this year, Western Australia, a 29-year-old woman was shot at a home. During this year, 2019, a 30-year-old man in Western Australia dies in custody after they were informed that he's suicidal. So, death by neglect, shootings, falls from high distances, and unanswered. 2018, a 20-year-old woman dies in handcuffs in such a tragic series of events, the same way her father died 20 years prior. 2017, 35-year-old male, New South Wales, died in police custody from unexplained head injuries. Also 2017, a woman was arrested for public drunkenness when she was asleep on a train, and then she ended up in custody where her head hit a cell wall, causing hemorrhaging, and she died days later. This was in Victoria. In South Australia, in 2016, a 29-year-old father died in Yatala Vale because of brain damage, which I believe was caused from 5 officers. I will include all the articles in the comments below. Also in 2016, a woman died because she didn't receive the necessary medical care, aka that no one called an ambulance. 2015, a New South Wales Indigenous man died in custody after they went to sedate him and overdosed him, and he died within 90 seconds. And here's fair warning, the next one is video footage of another woman dying in cuffs from 2014.
A recent injury, that's a broken rib. Is it your right rib?
Yeah, right, yeah.
And what on the pain tonight? Because you weren't in any pain before.
No, I haven't been in pain all day.
Okay.
I don't know.
When the officer asked you to leave to go to the hospital when you came in, why did you say no? You need to make sure that you tell us fully about how you're feeling, otherwise if we get to this in pain.
She can't feel her body. That's all it's done. She can't get up. She can't feel her legs. She's having a stroke. What else is she having? You name it.
I had to watch that several times to even let it sink in. One officer says, "You need to be honest with us and tell us if you're in pain." And then another one accuses her of faking it. And then did you see how they carried her to the car? Are you telling me that in a police station they don't have those little stretchers? I've seen local sport clubs have those stretchers. And you're telling me a police station doesn't have them? Or you're telling me they have them and they just didn't use them? Broken rib or not, are you going to be carrying someone by their arms and legs? Are you kidding me? Alright, a couple of last things. This is from 2016-17. Gotta love it when they use percentages because the raw numbers would probably be too shocking. And this whole non-Indigenous, because imagine if they just put percentage of Indigenous deaths. Because this here from 2016-17 in police custody, that still gives us 40%. In prison custody, that still gives us 22%. Now, this next piece of information is very important because those percentages are ridiculous when you take in the fact that Australia's whole population, Indigenous, counts for 3%. So to be 3% of the population, but yet 40% of police custody deaths, you can see why there's a big issue. Alright, Kalgoorlie, Western Australia. Elijah's just a teenager when he was killed by being hit on a motorbike by a four-wheel drive utility vehicle by a man who was searching for a stolen property after police told him where he should go look. He saw his bike, person riding it, chased him in his car, hit him. I think after charges being reduced, maybe 3 years, maybe not, have to look back into that. And then my final point, like how I mentioned Elijah, even though he wasn't somebody who died in custody, he was just another victim of Australia's failed, horrendous attempt at a legal system and law enforcement. Because those paintings are from my first video going through one of my first real what do you mean experiences when I learnt about 3 children who've been murdered and went missing back in the 90s from an Aboriginal community. Everyone knew who did it and the police didn't do shit. They had to pretty much get changes to double jeopardy laws to get this motherfucker, and police had no interest. And this really got me because I learnt all this from a documentary around about the same time as they had another inquiry into the Beaumont children special on TV, because that's what really fucks me off. I've never heard about these other kids before, and it's pretty obvious why, Aboriginal kids, because of our shitty media, but they're gonna go on about the Beaumont kids still when they went missing before my mother was born. So whether you're on this end or that end, law enforcement, and you're one of the First Nations people of this country, I fear for you, because this track record is disgusting and appalling, and every Australian should be absolutely ashamed. Apparently it wasn't enough to just take the land and decimate it. They have to still kill the people. 200 years later, not much has seemed. Imagine if this was any other group of people. Like Australia has 2% Japanese population, but 30% of deaths in custody are Japanese. People would be livid. Or like Australian police shoot a German 19-year-old boy this week. 2 months ago, shot a German woman at a home. If that was all the information people were given, imagine the outrage, unrest, and consequences that would come from something like Australia shows a pattern of deaths of inmates from Indonesia in various brutal ways that have not been properly explained. Head injuries, being given too much sedatives. I honestly picture that. Australia had an ongoing thing with Indonesian women dying in our cells handcuffed. An Indonesian mum dying because her head was hit against a cell wall, which caused hemorrhaging. Pick any country or any group of people. If we had an ongoing issue with the death of those minorities, it would be game over, son. But because we're just continuing a genocide of the people whose land was stolen, I guess if you're abusers in your house, it'd be harder to have a witness and have someone come back you up. Because it's not enough to have court rulings making it illegal for Aboriginal people to go to their land because it's now a mining site on one side of the country, and then on the other side of the country having mining giants disregard courts' native title rulings and just go and mine Aboriginal land and not pay anyone, because doing that's not enough. You have to get the police to shoot them as well. Now, if you want to learn about an injustice that happened this year to the Agnu, Matna and Bangnara people, I suggest watching my video titled The Judge, the Farmer and the Mayor. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and stand in solidarity with your neighbour.